we have been in this for the long haul, but we have to be committed to staying in it for the long haul. We do stand on the shoulders of so many, from the drag queens and transsexuals and transgender people at the Stonewall Bar in New York, to Harvey Milk, to every kid or adult who went home to Podunk, Idaho and said, "Mom, Dad, I'm gay." There are so many people who have been a part of this movement, but it is going to still take a long time. And even after we achieve our full rights, it doesn't mean that hearts will have changed. Just because the Jim Crow laws came off the books in the 60s did not end racism. And just because girls get federal funding for sports does not mean that sexism is done. And even when we achieve our full civil rights as we deserve, there will still be work to be done. And so we have to be in this for the long haul, and we need allies.
There are people in the world who suffer for gender, for sexual orientation. You know that, I know that. So the way that I resolve this conflict about the national party and the national difficulty is to say, I have to redouble. I have to do something. I have to find some concrete way for myself to use the skills that I have to continue this struggle, which is much larger than the struggle around sexual orientation or gender identification or any of that stuff. It is, this is one clue, I think, in the struggle for human liberation. And, in a way, things are stirring in this nation, I'm sure, I hope. And the winds of change are blowing. And, I realize that for myself, I can't let disappointment stand in the way. And I, to come into solidarity once again with people that really suffer all over this planet and all over this nation, it can only be a good thing.
In our effort to do anti-oppression work, let us be united in this journey together. We are infinitely more powerful together than separate. We're infinitely more healthier, really, in this struggle together. We come here to this glad event holding on to a vision because our life work is bent on helping others and it is arched towards justice. Let us see that it is today that our best work can be done and must be done in the face of our own self-respect as activists. The Yoruba proverb states, "If we stand tall, it is because we stand on the backs of those who come before us. It is our ancestors who have taught us how to make it in broken places, and they have also taught us how to make a way out of no way. They have taught us that we must climb, must lift as we climb, and they have taught us that we must always see our work in relationship to one another."
I can't tell you how many times I always get asked by journalists, what was harder, coming out as gay or coming out as undocumented? I can never really answer the question. That's just like asking me which arm is stronger and which arm I can't do without. But what I always say to people is that, we're actually not coming out. We're just letting people in. And at Define American, when we say we let people in by telling the most accurate, most complex stories of who the 43 million immigrant population in this country really are, 11 million of whom are here illegally. So it's about the stories we tell in the news media. It's the stories we tell in the television shows and the movies we watch. In this country, you cannot change the politics and a policy of an issue until you change the culture in which people talk about the issue, right? Love is love has been really the rallying cry of the LGBTQ movement. I would argue in the immigrant rights movement, family is family.
It can be very hard to live a life that is defined only by what you have been, rather than what you have become, or who you are. And this is, again, not the particular struggle of the transgender man or woman, it's everybody. So, how do we make peace with all of these selves? How do we end up living one life instead of two? In my case, the answer came from the telling of story. You look at your life as one continuous narrative rather than as before and after. It's story that connects us to our past. It's story that helps us, quite literally, understand the narrative of our own lives. So it's this that I wish for all of you tonight and through all the days of your lives. I hope that over the course of a long life, you will find the words to tell your story in all of its joyful, scary, contradictory wonder. It's a great gift. It's one that has saved my life and the lives of many other people that I know, and I'm so grateful for it.
So it's not easy to feel generous when someone has done something that is so clearly wrong, right? Obviously, anger and frustration and resentment is what comes through first. But as Nelson Mandela said, resentment is a poison we swallow, thinking it will kill our enemy. Anger can eat away at us sometimes in a way that is not healthy and not helpful. So particularly in this day and age, we must challenge our anger and passion in a way that is constructive. And let's consider an additional piece in that. I don't want us to allow our anger and our passion to make change, to stop us from reaching across divides in an effort to find common ground when one is possible. Sometimes it's not going to be possible to find that common ground, and we can all think of some scenarios. But for those times, and in those situations where it may be possible to find common ground with those who have opposed us in the past, because we tell them who we are, because we have them understand what it means to be transgender, to be LGBT, to be queer, if it is possible to reach across divides and make common ground with those who have opposed us in the past, I wouldn't want us to miss that opportunity.
What does a world without AIDS mean? What does an AIDS-free generation mean? It doesn't mean AIDS-free over here and not over there. Increasingly, the amplification of two Americas exists, where one is healthy, wealthy, and white, and the other is poor, still at risk, and people of color. That is not our America. But I tell you something that gives me hope, that makes me proud. If there is one thing that I am sure of, it is the power of the convergence of the wisdom, the heart, and courage in this room, and rooms like this, in this community, in our community, to forge a path that will finally get the job done. I know that each of you are committed as we are to get there. And I know, as I look around this room, that each of you have a pair of ruby red slippers that you can click together that will get us home. The day will come when this epidemic will be over. And when it does, it's important for them to know that we were not all monsters, that we were not all cowards. Some of us dared to care in the face of it. Some of us dared to love in spite of it. Some of us dared to fight because of it. Because it is in the caring and the loving and the fighting that we live forever. Thank you.
Even in a hard year, we can't give up. Giving up and going home wouldn't be the right answer for me. It never is. And I bet it wouldn't be the right answer for any of you either, or you wouldn't be here tonight. There's so much work to do when it comes to justice for all our communities, even things none of us has even thought about. We need to have ethics in our activism. I always tell people I'm working alongside. I run with a code of ethics. You should run with a code of ethics, whatever you're doing and however you're doing this work. We need our movement to be intergenerational. There were people doing this work long before I started, and there are going to be people doing this work long after me. I'm just one person carrying the ball for a certain period of time. To me, it's always been clear that activism is about replacing oneself. Young people, older people, people my age, all these perspectives make the work better. All those people give me hope. We need to learn to be allies with other communities. That's what we did in the early days when we sat down and figured out whose oppressions and goals were liberations that aligned with ours, who we were going to be allies with to grow this movement as trans and non-binary people. At the same time, we can't give away our power. The trans and non-binary movement needs to be led by trans and non-binary leaders. We need to have honest and realistic conversations with each other, but we can do that with kindness. We have to do the work to take care of ourselves too. Self-care is important. This work is tough. This life is tough. Find the things that help you navigate through it. If this means going to therapy, then go to therapy. We need to get rid of the stigma that's too often still attached to that. And we need to make sure that mental health resources are more accessible to everyone like any other health care. Bottom line is, find the thing that helps you take care of you, because we need you. Above all, we need each other.